One storm changed the world map in a single night. This is the story of the shipwreck that changed history, a single catastrophe that did far more than sink a vessel. It rerouted the ambitions of empires, collapsed global markets, and sent shockwaves through centuries. By the end, you will understand how a pile of sunken wood and metal forced historians to tear up the old rulebook. We're going to investigate how a legendary loss became a modern discovery, and why the cargo they finally pulled from the deep was nothing like anyone expected. What forgotten choices from our past are still lying silent on the ocean floor? That ship was the Nuestra Señora de Atacha, a Spanish galleon built to be a floating fortress. It was the rear guard of a massive treasure fleet, a yearly convoy that sailed from the New World back to Spain, carrying the entire wealth of an empire across the Atlantic. Its home port was Havana, a bustling colonial hub where gold from Peru and silver from the mountains of Mexico were meticulously weighed, registered, and packed into the dark holds of ships like the Atacha. Its destination was Seville, the financial heart of Spain. The cargo was not just valuable, it was the literal fuel for a global superpower, paying for armies, palaces, and the endless wars that defined European politics. On board were chests of newly minted silver coins, gold bars, and emeralds from Colombia, a fortune so vast it was insured for 1.8 million pesos, a sum that would be worth hundreds of millions today. The crew was a microcosm of the empire, from aristocratic officers to hardened sailors and enslaved Africans. They were all part of a system that stretched from the mines of South America to the counting houses of Europe. The political climate was one of desperate competition. Spain's rivals, England and the Netherlands, constantly preyed upon these treasure fleets, making every voyage a high-stakes gamble. The Atacha was not just a ship, it was a vital artery, and its safe passage was a matter of national survival. In September of 1622, the fleet set sail from Havana during the most dangerous season, hurrying to beat the hurricanes. They never stood a chance. Just a few days into the journey, a monstrous storm swept across the Florida Straits. Winds shredded the sails, waves taller than castles smashed the wooden hulls. The Atacha, weighed down by its incredible cargo, was driven onto a coral reef. The impact was catastrophic. The hull cracked open and the sea rushed in. Within minutes, the mighty galleon, along with its sister ships, vanished beneath the waves. Of the 265 souls on the Atacha, only 5 survived, clinging to the broken mast. The immediate human tragedy was profound, but the economic shockwave was instantaneous. News of the loss plunged the Spanish court into crisis. Loans could not be repaid, military campaigns were stalled, and the very foundation of their power was shaken. In a single night, a kingdom's fortune was scattered across the seafloor, and with it, the course of history began to bend in a new, unexpected direction. The ocean kept its secret for over 350 years. In the immediate aftermath of the sinking, Spain launched frantic salvage attempts, but the technology of the 17th century was no match for the depth and the powerful currents. Divers using primitive bell systems could only briefly touch the upper coral reef, finding a few scattered anchors but missing the main treasure mound entirely. The loss was a financial earthquake. Specific military outposts in the Caribbean went unfunded, construction on key fortifications halted, and Spain's ability to project power in the New World was permanently weakened. This single disaster did not topple the empire, but it was a critical blow, a slow leak that accelerated its decline and emboldened its rivals. England and the Netherlands grew bolder, sensing vulnerability. The Atacha's treasure was not just lost, it was a debt that could never be collected, and its absence quietly reshaped the geopolitical map. As decades turned into centuries, the precise coordinates faded from memory, surviving only as cryptic notes in old logbooks. The wreck transformed from a historical fact into a mariner's legend, a ghost story whispered in port taverns. It became the great white whale of treasure hunters, an El Dorado of the sea that lured countless fortune seekers to the Florida Keys. Each failed expedition added another layer to the myth. Men searched for it with little more than hope and hand-drawn maps, combing miles of treacherous coastline. They were thwarted by the same elements that sank the ship: relentless storms, shifting sands, and the vast, featureless expanse of the ocean. The technology simply did not exist to find a scattered wreck site buried under sand and coral. By the 20th century, most serious historians considered the Atacha forever lost, a romantic tale but not a recoverable piece of history. The legend, however, refused to die, waiting for one man who refused to believe it was just a story. The legend finally met a man who saw a map where others saw only water. That man was Mel Fisher, a former chicken farmer turned treasure hunter whose name would become synonymous with the Atacha. In the 1960s, armed with little more than a deep conviction and a few tantalizing clues from old Spanish archives, Fisher dedicated his life to the search. It was the definition of a quixotic quest, a modern-day odyssey that would consume 16 years, his family's entire fortune, and the lives of several team members, including his own son and daughter-in-law, who were lost in a tragic accident at sea. The challenge was monumental. The wreck site was not a neat ship-shaped outline on the bottom, but a debris field scattered over miles of ocean floor, buried under centuries of sand and shifting coral. Finding it required a marriage of old-world detective work and cutting-edge technology. Fisher's team pioneered the use of magnetometers, devices that could detect the faint magnetic signature of iron cannons and anchors buried deep below the sand. They dragged side-scan sonar arrays behind their boats, which painted the first ghostly acoustic images of the seabed, revealing lumps and shapes invisible to the naked eye. Yet the real breakthrough often came from a library, not a lab. Archival researchers combed through thousands of pages of centuries-old Spanish court documents, insurance claims, and survivor testimonies, cross-referencing distances and descriptions to triangulate a search box in the vast ocean. It was a grueling process of elimination, a story of hope constantly tempered by empty nets and broken equipment. Then on July 20th, 1985, after years of false leads and heartbreak, the radio crackled with a message that would echo around the world. The words were simple, but they carried the weight of 3 centuries. "We have a green one." A diver had surfaced holding a single perfect emerald, glinting in the Florida sun. That was followed by the unmistakable shape of a silver bar, its surface still bearing the royal tax stamps of the Spanish crown. The eureka moment was not a single artifact, but a cascade of confirmation. They had found the mother lode, the main treasure mound of the Nuestra Señora de Atacha. The discovery, however, was only the beginning of a new kind of battle. The state of Florida immediately claimed the treasure, launching a brutal 8-year legal war that went all the way to the United States Supreme Court. Fisher's perseverance was tested not just by the sea, but by courtrooms and dwindling funds. His victory, when it finally came, was a landmark ruling that secured his rights, establishing a precedent for salvors worldwide. The find was a triumph, but it was a triumph forged through unimaginable loss, relentless effort, and a stubborn belief that a story that began in a storm could have a different ending. But the real treasure was not the gold. When the silt settled and the conservators began their meticulous work, the Atacha's cargo began to speak, and it told a far richer story than anyone had anticipated. The silver coins, for instance, were not just bullion. Each one bore precise mint marks and assayer stamps, a detailed ledger in metal. Historians could suddenly trace, coin by coin, the exact output of the Potosi silver mines in a given month, revealing previously unknown peaks and crashes in production that rewrote the economic timeline of the Spanish Empire. It was like finding a lost bank statement from the 17th century, one that showed the empire's financial health in real time. Then came the personal items, the quiet echoes of lives interrupted. A single ornate navigator's astrolabe, a sophisticated brass instrument for measuring the stars, demonstrated a level of maritime technology that scholars had not believed was in common use on such voyages. Its presence on the seafloor pushed back the timeline of widespread celestial navigation in the Atlantic. Even more intimate were the finds that spoke of the cruise world. Seeds and pits from olives, plums, and chickpeas preserved in the anaerobic mud painted a vivid picture of the ship's larder and the transatlantic transfer of everyday foods. But perhaps the most startling discoveries were the indigenous artifacts. Mixed in with the Spanish treasure were beautifully worked beads and pendants made from materials native to the Americas, items that were not on any official manifest. These were not loot, but trade goods or personal possessions, suggesting a hidden economy and cultural exchange happening below the official radar of the empire. They revealed that the Atacha was not just a pipeline for extracting wealth, but a floating crossroads where two worlds met, bartered and blended in ways the history books had missed. Each of these objects, from the grandest gold bar to the humblest seed, was a data point. Together, they forced a dramatic revision of our understanding. The scale of trade was even larger than documented, the technology more advanced and the human connections far more complex. The wreck was no longer just a treasure chest, it was a perfectly preserved time capsule, a snapshot of a globalized world in motion, frozen at its most dramatic moment. And this was just one ship. What other silent witnesses are waiting on the ocean floor, ready to challenge everything we think we know? The ocean floor became the ultimate archive. The journey of the Atacha is a profound reminder that history is not always written on parchment, but often etched in wood, stamped on silver, and scattered by the sea. We began with a tragic loss, a storm that shattered lives and fortunes. That tragedy faded into legend, a ghost story that lured dreamers for centuries. Then, through a blend of stubborn passion and emerging science, the legend transformed into a tangible, world-changing discovery. This singular shipwreck provided something no land-based library ever could, a concentrated, undisturbed snapshot of a global moment. Every artifact, from the royal seal on a silver bar to a sailor's personal bead, was frozen in time, offering raw, unfiltered evidence. It forced us to revise the economic timelines of empires, to recognize hidden cultural exchanges, and to see the past with a startling new clarity. Such finds do more than rewrite textbooks, they connect us viscerally to the human beings who lived those histories. We are not just reading about a storm in 1622, we are holding the very tools they used and the coins they minted. It makes the past immediate, intimate, and profoundly real, and this is just one ship. Our oceans are vast museums, holding countless stories still waiting in the dark. What other lost wrecks are resting in the deep, their cargo holds filled with secrets that could, once again, reshape our understanding of who we are and where we came from. What forgotten chapters of history do you think are still out there, waiting for their moment of discovery? Let us know your thoughts on other impactful historical finds in the comments below. And if you want to join more deep dives into the mysteries of our past, be sure to subscribe.